All right, so you ready to jump into this French and Indian War stuff? I'm looking at the stack of notes you sent over. It looks like maybe something from a class, or are you just like me and just obsessed with history?
Yeah, a little both, I guess.
Okay, cool, cool. So the big question you've got here is how the British managed to win. And I gotta admit, I'm curious too. So we're going on a deep dive back to the 1750s.
Yeah.
Global empires are going at it, and North America is like the big prize,
Right,
right?
right. You've got to think about it globally to really understand what was going on.
Yeah, for sure. And it all comes down to this one piece of land. Everyone wants it. It's the Ohio River Valley.
Exactly. Prime real estate, strategically located, lots of resources.
Yeah, yeah. So we've got a young George Washington, right? I mean, he's just starting out his military career, ends up at Fort Duquesne, and from what I'm seeing here, it did not go well.
Yeah, not exactly a highlight reel moment for the future president.
So what happened there? Give me the rundown.
Okay, so Washington, he's got limited resources, right?
Yeah.
Facing a much more experienced enemy. And he decides to build Fort Necessity in a low-lying area.
Not the best spot, I'm guessing.
Nope, not ideal. The French and their Native American allies, they attack, and then the rain starts pouring.
Rain. Wait, what does rain have to do with like military strategy?
Oh, it's huge. Think about it. Warfare back then, heavily reliant on gunpowder.
Yeah.
And gunpowder, well, let's just say it doesn't mix well with water.
Ah, so Washington's troops are suddenly outmatched, their weapons are useless.
Right. They put up a good fight. 9 hours they held out,
Yeah.
but they had to surrender.
Not exactly the start he was hoping for.
Yeah.
Okay, but then there's this document he signed, something about an assassination. That can't be right.
Oh, that. Yeah, the Jumonville affair. So Washington's French, let's just say it wasn't his strongest skill.
Right.
And in this really tense situation, he unknowingly signs this document. And to the French, it looked like he was admitting to assassinating one of their officers.
Wow. A language barrier gone wrong, and suddenly it becomes this huge international incident. One little slip up, and boom, history changes. I mean, talk about unintended consequences.
Yeah, it's a great example of how one seemingly small event can have massive ripple effects.
Okay, but the British, they weren't done making mistakes. They send General Braddock to take Fort Duquesne. And, well, those fancy European tactics, they don't work so well in the American wilderness, do they?
Not at all. Braddock, he's this seasoned general, right? Used to European-style warfare, big formations, open fields.
Yeah, I can just picture it.
And he completely underestimated the importance of adapting to this new environment.
Yep.
The dense forests of North America,
Yeah?
it's a different ballgame.
It's like he was trying to march his troops in formation through the woods, practically wearing a giant target on their backs with those bright red coats. Didn't Washington try to warn him about this?
He did. Washington, he'd learned his lesson at Fort Necessity. He told Braddock, hey, you got to be more flexible, more guerrilla style. Use the terrain to your advantage. But Braddock, he was set in his ways. Didn't listen.
So what happened?
Ambush. Devastating ambush by the French and their native allies. Braddock was killed. His troops, they were routed.
A massacre. Just awful. Though, from what I'm reading, Washington really stepped up after that, leading the survivors to safety. It's almost like those early setbacks were like crucial learning experiences for him.
Absolutely. And it's a theme we see again and again throughout history, right? You underestimate the power of local knowledge,
Sure.
it can cost you. Big time. The British, with their rigid tactics, they were totally outmatched by the guerrilla warfare tactics of the French and their Native American allies.
Right. Speaking of the Native Americans, it looks like they were like key players on both sides of this war, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. They weren't just sidekicks, they were essential. Think about it. Centuries of knowledge about the land, the best ways to fight in these forests. Both the British and the French wanted that on their side.
Makes sense. So things weren't exactly looking up for the British after those initial setbacks. But then we've got this new guy, William Pitt, the British Prime Minister. And he comes in with a totally different approach.
Pitt was a game changer. He realized how important the American colonies were, and he was determined to win. And he understood something crucial. He knew that winning a war isn't just about battles, it's about logistics.
Cut off the enemy's supplies, basically.
Exactly. He focused on controlling the supply lines, especially along the St. Lawrence and Niagara rivers.
So no supplies for the French, no fighting, smart. And this starts to work, right?
Big time. The British, they're re-energized, they've got a smarter strategy, they finally capture Fort Duquesne, which becomes Fort Pitt, and then they take Louisbourg, this major French fortress up in Canada.
Yeah, major victories. But the big one, the one that everyone knew would decide the war, was Quebec. This city, perched high on cliffs overlooking the St. Lawrence River. How on earth did they manage to take that?
Well, you had General Wolfe, brilliant commander, but, well, maybe a little unconventional. He knew a traditional siege wouldn't work against Quebec, so he
Yep.
came up with a plan. Bold plan, risky too.
Eh.
Nighttime climb up those cliffs, followed by a surprise attack.
Hold on. They climb the cliffs at night. That's insane.
It was. Steep cliffs, treacherous terrain, and the French, they were expecting an attack from the river, not from above.
So picture this. Dead of night, British troops are silently scaling these cliffs, clinging on for dear life, and then at dawn, the French wake up and bam! The entire British army is assembled on the Plains of Abraham, right outside the city walls.
It was a total shock. The Battle of the Plains of Abraham was a fierce fight, bloody fight. Both Wolfe and the French commander Montcalm were killed.
And the British, they win. With Quebec in their hands, the French were in deep trouble. But while this was going on in the north, there was a whole other story unfolding down in Louisiana. France, they're desperate to hang on to their colonies, and they start making some pretty shady deals.
Louisiana became a pawn in this global power struggle. France, facing defeat, they turned to Spain for help. They offer up Louisiana as a way to, sweeten the deal and get them into the war on their side.
So we've got these secret negotiations, backroom deals, the fate of Louisiana hanging in the balance. It's like a spy novel.
It gets even wilder. The French, they were desperate to protect their sugar islands in the Caribbean, so they secretly hand over New Orleans to Spain.
Whoa, they were willing to give up a key part of their North American empire just to protect their sugar trade. That's crazy. It seems like they were just trying to salvage what they could from a losing war, but in the end, it wasn't enough.
The war went on, but ultimately, in 1763, the Treaty of Paris was signed. The French and Indian War was officially over.
The British won, but at what cost? And what about those seeds of resentment we keep hearing about? There's so much more to this story. We'll have to dive into all that in part 2.